Hello. Today we are creating a seascape of the ocean using at least 3 different types of coral and 1 fish. We're going to draw it on this paper here. I'm using a Sharpie so you can see. You should draw in pencil because otherwise you cannot erase your pencil lines when you make a mistake. Make sure also that you're drawing lightly. So it's up to you to divide this space however you want, as long as you have at least 1 sea animal and 3 different types of coral. So sketch it first, lightly. A second requirement that I forgot to mention is that you must have a foreground, something towards the front of your picture, a middle ground, and a background. So make sure you're including 3 different parts of a landscape or a seascape in this artwork. So I'd like to add more details, but right now I'm going to say I'm finished to show you guys the next step. What you're going to do is you are going to take your drawing and tape it onto your piece of styrofoam. Center it. It might not line up perfectly, that's okay. And then I'm taping that together. You're only getting 1 piece of styrofoam. So if you make any mistakes, you're stuck with it. You'll have to figure out a way to make it work. I don't have enough for everybody to have more than 1. And what you're going to do, it's okay if your design doesn't line up perfectly. You can draw to the edges of the spaces. So I'm going over all of my designs with a dull pencil, pressing hard. And what this is doing is this is transferring my design onto here. Now this is going to be a mirror image that we will eventually print, which means it's flipped the opposite way of what you drew it. So if you would write any lettering or anything, it would show it backwards, since this is a mirror image of what your print will be that we're going to make. When you think you're done, pick up the paper, look to see if it transferred nicely. If it did, pull that off. You will probably find that you're going to need to go over these grooves now a second time. It is perfectly fine if your pencil lines are showing on your design when you're tracing over it. That will not transfer as part of your design, so trace over it a second time, making those grooves nice and deep. If your grooves are not deep enough, when you print it, this will not work. Once again, using a dull pencil. Okay, now everything is on here. Well, what I'm going to do is write my name on the back in Sharpie, just in case this falls out of my portfolio, so I still have it. The next step is to use washable markers. They must be washable markers to color this in. I highly suggest start coloring at the top and working your way down so that you are not getting ink on your hands. Or if you don't want to do that, make sure you're holding your hand up and not letting it rub onto the styrofoam so it's transferring that marker. For this to be successful, the marker needs to stay on the styrofoam. If you are worried about putting this in your portfolio, don't. At the end of class, you can put it in your portfolio. The marker shouldn't rub off too much. If it does, we can always go over it, but it shouldn't. Not unless somebody is purposely putting pressure on there. Try to stay in your line so your different sections have colors. Make sure you're not mixing the colors. I wouldn't want to then take a yellow marker and start coloring over this blue, or that marker will now be ruined because it will be taking on the blue instead of the yellow color that it's supposed to have. So color this in realistically. Stay in your lines as best as possible. You're going to be doing this process 4 different times, at least. If your prints don't turn out well, you'll have to do more than 4 times, but you're going to be getting 4 good prints. Everything needs to be completely colored in here. You shouldn't have any of the styrofoam left uncolored. Okay, For the next step, be careful how you're touching this so you're not getting the marker on your hands. You're gonna take whatever paper it is that you're given to use and a wet sponge that has been wrung out, and you're gonna wipe it on your paper so it's making it damp. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over my print in that wet area, press it down, keep one hand still the whole time, and then with your other hand, massage or rub this so we're pressing this into your paper. So it should be transferring the ink from your paper onto, or should I say the plate, printing plate, which is the styrofoam, onto your design. Do this for like a half a minute to a minute. Make sure you're rubbing all areas, and then pull your print up. And now it has transferred my design from here to here. If it is a little blocky like that, means my paper was probably a little too wet, and the areas where stuff isn't showing at all, I didn't press hard enough or in that area. So I'm gonna repeat this step several more times until I have 4 good prints. Have fun.